want our kids to go through the pains that we went through, right? And we knew this was the answer. Jesus was the answer. And so for us, it was really interesting. People, sometimes I've had moments, where, maybe someone in my family has said, like, Karl, what changed you? Because their life's a mess, and they'll say, Karl, what changed you? And it's just Jesus, right? It's just Jesus and God's people. That's it. Like, it was literally, that's it. And for us, it was like, we were so grateful. I remember, I remember coming back, we were here in part of this church family for years, and then we went to California to plant a church.
Which I couldn't believe they let us do.
Us, yeah. I mean, I don't think most of the church could, right?
God,
that was years later, but
it was years later.
They let us do that, and Andrew trusted us with that, But leaving this church and going and doing that, man, I think we cried for the first 1,500 miles of heading to California. And we got to California, and the church was phenomenal, and everything was great, and we loved it. And then we come back, after at some point, we sat down and talked to your dad. It was time for us to come back and lead the campus in Caledonia. And now we're leading the campus that we got saved in. Shoot.
And some of those people are still there.
They're still there,
Helped us.
And now their kids are getting married. No one will watch it. It's beautiful, but this is really funny. I don't tell this story much, but I think it's funny. I had to change the seats in the auditorium because every Sunday I'd get up to preach.
He never used to cry.
Yeah, I didn't used to cry. It's terrible. I would look at the seats we sat in when I got saved.
Wow.
And I was just overwhelmed with just emotion. It was hard.
Yeah.
So I remember we'd been here a couple weeks, and I went to James Kraft.
Yep.
And I said, hey, we need to adjust the chairs. He's like, why, you don't like them? I was like, no, I don't. and
I'd like to stop crying.
Yeah, I don't like them. And so we adjusted them. And I remember the first Sunday I preached, and I looked at those chairs where me and Manny had been moved now, and the shape of the chairs were different. And I thought, man, this, like, it seems so silly, right? But it was, like, on Sundays I come in and I'm just really grateful.
Yeah.
And I'll stand in that spot. And I'm just like, man, thank you, God.
Yeah.
And I think when I see new people come in, I think, man, everything can get fixed for you right now.
Yeah.
Like right now. And every once in a while, you'll see somebody and you'll think, man, this is your day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That everything's absolutely going to change for you. And that's going to be your seat, that you always remember it happening in, and it's going to impact your life. And however that looks for you is what their journey with God's going to be. But what it was for us was completely, utterly having this revelation that me and Amanda want every family to experience the restoration power of God and the healing power of God and the unity that God brings. And that's just Jesus.
Yeah.
It's
so true.
I think for us, that is our motivation every day of our lives.
Yeah.
Is what's God asking us to do to strengthen families, to strengthen couples, to be there if someone needs to talk.
And I think also understanding that we're a family.
Yeah.
Right? Because the people in the church became our family, became our covenant family. They helped us through things. Yeah. They told us when we were not doing it right. Yeah. They congratulated us when we were doing it. They were there, right? There were some people still that I can look back and I'm like, they were a cheerleader.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's incredible. You were talking earlier about, like, if someone looked from the outside into your guys' life when you were first married, right? And you were talking about judging things by their fruit.
Yeah.
You said, I don't think there'd be a lot of fruit. there's something in me in that moment that disagreed with that, right? And I was trying to figure a way to articulate it. And I was like, I'll just leave it alone. Maybe I'll circle back to it later or off camera or whatever. But listening to this part of your guys' journey, the fruit is your guys' relentless love.
Yeah.
So I think even though it might not have bore a lot of external fruit that people could have seen, there was something even before you guys were saved that God was producing in you guys.
Yeah.
Like you guys got married in 23 days, had 2 kids back to back, moved to Evansville, Indiana, moved back, have another kid, house burns down, and through all of that, you guys chose, whether you realize in that moment or not, to relentlessly love each other. And care for each other. And there's a part of you, even though like you guys had your marriage troubles and you were looking at like, what does this look like? Does it look like you go into an apartment? There was this part of you guys were like, but we have to stay a family.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I look at your guys' life now, and I think the fruit's there, right? Like there was an internal work going on there, and now I look at the external. The external is like your guys' heart for people.
Yeah.
It's that, like guys, like listen, Jesus is all you need because of this.
Yeah.
All you need is to be in this room with the family because we've experienced the power of God.
Yeah.
Right? And I think without that previous journey, like he toughened and conditioned you guys. So even when other people look at people, and I've seen you guys do this, and they might write them off, that you guys are like, no. Like there's still hope. There's still a chance. Anyway, but it's just incredible to even see that, like looking at your guys' life of like how sometimes the fruit starts internal and then becomes outward, right? And I think your guys' journey up to this point is such a testimony of that. And it's so powerful. And there's no way anyone listening to this can't grab something from that and apply it to their life no matter where they are.
So true.
Right?
I agree.
So let's get back on track before we all keep crying. So we've kind of talked up until you guys got to church, Greg and Sandy, all that. Then you shared your guys' like the process of what the experience of coming to the point was like for you guys, and you had your ups and downs and your freakouts and whatnot. And then I know you guys just referenced moving to California, but kind of let's just take a quick step back. I don't want to take 2 steps, too far of a step back, but give us like the year or 2, kind of that time frame leading into California. What were you guys doing in the church? Where were you guys at? Like, kind of bring us up to speed there.
Those are some of like the really good years, right? And I remember me and Mandy, we had sat down at one point, and Mandy had said like, I had this passion to I wanted to lead a church. I didn't know what that meant, and even maybe lead the church is the wrong word. I wanted to be part of planting a church and getting something established and giving people an opportunity to experience this Jesus, right? This salvation and this encounter with God, and we believe in church planting it as part of the point, as part of our DNA, part of our culture. I just wanted to do it so bad. And listen, I say this all the time, like I wanted to go and plant the church, but I in my head too, I thought, well, after a year, so they'll send somebody qualified to lead it. Like that's kind of how I thought. And so we had talked about that, and that was something Mandy had heard from God that we were going to do this. And so she had said to me, like, she goes, I believe there's going to come an opportunity for you to intern with the church, and I believe you're supposed to do it. Now listen, intern means no money. Right? And so I thought,
like it's an unpaid internship.
And I thought, oh boy, like, honey, how are we going to navigate that? Right? And Mandy's like, she had a really good job at the time. She's like, listen, I'll work. I think you should do this internship. And I also think before the internships, you have to do every discipleship thing they have. So any teaching they have, we're supposed to do. So we signed up for everything, every Monday night teaching, everything, man. We were at something to do with church all the time, and we'd bring our kids. So we'd sign our kids up. We did the evangelism thing, and we did like a summer program. We did everything, And at that time we were growing spiritually, like we were sharpening us, and it was really changing us. And then there came a time where Andrew sat me down and said, "I'd like you to pray about interning." And when he said it, I'm like, oh, that's the thing Mandy said like a year ago, And so this is actually over, I'm giving you a 3-year span. Not
Yeah,
two.
no, it's great. I love
That's
it.
Okay. And so I had said, I was like, listen, man, me and Manny have been praying about this. Manny said I should do it. I completely agree. I'm in. He's like, well, go home and talk to your wife. I was like, yeah, but we already talked about it. I'm in. He's like, go home and talk to your wife. Let me know. So I drove home. I said, I'm going to do the internship. Yeah. And she was like, oh, I knew it. So I called him. I was like, yep. She said, yeah. He's like, okay. Can you guys talk about it? I'm like, we did. We're good. And so I was in, you know, and I stepped away from work. And now Mandy, and this is the thing, like we talk about this all the time, is that we, at this point in our marriage, everything we do together.
Yeah.
Everything, because one of the things that we did before we did everything separately.
Yeah.
So now here's this moment where I'm interning with the church, and she's working and providing for the family. And it was a little hard because I'm coming back with all these things I'm learning and doing and happening, and she's like, yep, another day on the grind, you know?
Wow.
But God had given her a word about it. And so that was carrying us through.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I interned it was probably like almost a year. And Andrew said, I'd like to do another year of interning. And I was like, oh man, another year? Like, well, she ain't gonna go for that, you know?
God spoke to her about one.
Yeah, God's working about time. So I came home and I said, well, you know, Andrew thought maybe I should intern. She was like, yeah, do it. You gotta keep interning. We got, like, I know we're supposed to do this. And then she said, I was praying last night. I'll never forget this. So I was praying last night, and God said, we're going to go to California.
Oh, wow.
And I started laughing. I said, girl, you heard him wrong. He said Caledonia, not California. And and she said, she was so kind and generous. She said, can you just pray about it? I was like, yeah, no problem. You know? And I mean, I didn't hear nothing for a long time.
Yeah.
Right. And I did another internship, and we're coming to the end of that internship. And I remember, like, well, this was like going to be the end of my internship. And I was kind of we were thinking about maybe moving to Easttown at the time. There was a campus in Easttown that we were launching, and like maybe we'll be part of that. You know, we just wanted to be part of, you know, a leadership team or, you know, something. Just
growing.
We just wanted to grow something. And we were trying to navigate and figure it out. And,
Yeah.
And
I think also, well, during all of this is happening, we got the opportunity to lead youth,
Yeah.
and we were leading kids.
Yeah.
Wow.
And all in the midst of this, our son got super sick as well.
Oh, no, please don't.
I'm not going to
Oh, like a baby. I saw that on the Christmas special. I don't need that again. I don't need that again.
He got sick, but for me, because God was faithful in healing Chandler, right, and doing all of that. But through the midst of that, I was learning how to walk out faith in that and believing for all these things, because I'd never had to do that before. And I also didn't know that you know, hearing from God, and I was still learning all that. So when Karl said, when I told Karl I think he'd do an internship, and it actually really like, I'm not crazy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I built on my faith. So when I heard we were supposed to go to California, I was like, oh, this is just like last time. Through all these little things that we were doing, just built all of our foundations, like teaching the kids, watching the kids, in the midst, prepared us for moving to California.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And I think I want to say this. I loved leading youth.
Yeah.
Like I gotta be honest. I loved it. Like I thought, this is what I'm gonna do the rest of my life. I'm gonna be 90 years old leading youth. You know, I just loved it. And I always joke, the two things I was best at was greeting at the front doors and leading youth, you know. And I absolutely just had a huge passion for it. And so, you know, when I'm doing this internship and Mandy's working, and then she's also overseeing kids at that time. Yeah. And she loved overseeing kids. Like, she loved every aspect of it. And we were just really loving life. And I think one of the things I want to say about this time that I know we don't talk, I don't think I mentioned a lot, but in this time frame, and when I decided to do this internship, was the first time in our Christian walk where some of our Christian family didn't agree with what we were doing.
Correct.
And that for me, like, I just believed at the time, like, when we tell everybody, they're all gonna know it's right. Mm-hmm. They're all gonna know it's a God thing. They're all gonna be supportive of us. And some of the people I looked up to the most and like, I knew they loved me, and they had always been in my corner every other time. Yeah. when I said to them that I was going to do this internship, they didn't think it was a good idea. And they didn't.
So walk me through that. What was that
Yeah,
like for you? Like
it was.
This is probably the first time you had that conflict, right?
It was and it wasn't conflict. I think this is one of the things I learned. Right, is when they said it, I thought, man, they really love me. I remember thinking that they really love me and they love my family and they want us to be. They want what, if they were in my position, would be best for them.
Yeah.
But I think it hurt a touch. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I go
absolutely.
to somebody that I look up to, and I think this guy's an amazing father, an amazing husband, and he's everything I'm wanting to. When I first got saved, I wanted to be, and he's like, "Oh man, no, you don't do this.
Yeah,
like you need to just work on your career and do not do the internship. You're too old to do an internship. Don't do this." Wow. And I thought it did feel like maybe he doesn't believe in me. That's how it felt. But then but very quickly, I thought he's speaking to me like he would speak to a son. Yeah. And so I think for me, it did solidify me that I knew what I was supposed to do because it didn't make me think about it at all. Like when he said it, it was like, like it was really like that. Like,
it didn't make you second guess or question what God spoke to you.
And then it was, oh man,
this
wouldn't make sense for your walk with God.
Yeah.
But for my walk with God, this is what I absolutely have to do. And I remember I just said, like, I thanks for saying that, and I love you, and just pray for us as we do this. I know I'm supposed to do it. Yeah. And he kind of, all right. And that happened a couple of times, And
can I ask you a question about that real quick?
Yeah.
Just kind of just because you're sharing that part of your story and like where you're at now. What would you say to somebody who's like younger, right? And they're kind of in that phase of their life where they feel like God's spoken to them.
Yeah.
But that there's some wisdom above them from people they surround themselves with. They're like, hey, you shouldn't do that. Because you just said something I found interesting. You said, I knew for their walk, it doesn't make sense, but for mine it does. Where's that balance for you?
Yeah, I think one of the things, like, we didn't make that decision in isolation.
No.
And I think that was
confirmed multiple times.
Yeah, it was something we had prayed about. We knew we were called to. But we didn't move on it until, our what we would call our spiritual authority, our elder, was in complete agreement. Yeah. Right? And I think that was a big part. Until Andrew said yes, we were very content to wait. Like I mentioned at one point, I didn't think it would happen until I was 60. Yeah. I just knew it was going to happen. Yeah. And we were very comfortable waiting for God to open the door and to tell our spiritual leaders what he had already told us. Yeah. Because we knew if he told us that he was going to tell them. Yeah. But then you have brothers and sisters around you that love you, right? And God didn't tell them. Yeah. And so what God told you doesn't make any sense to them. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I remember, I've had this a couple times where, like, one of the biggest lessons I had to learn in my life is that if God didn't speak to me on it, maybe I should just maybe. And I think that I am forever grateful for those brothers and sisters in my life that loved me enough to tell me not to do it.
Oh, so important.
Like, I love them. Yeah. I think, gosh, man, thank you so much. Because so many times you were right. Yeah. Like, so many times. Like, you were right 9 out of 10 times. Yeah. Right? And the only time that you were wrong is just because God didn't tell you like he told me and he told Andrew. And it's like I said, Andrew picked us when it didn't make sense to anybody. Yeah. And that's how God moves sometimes. Like, what? No. Yeah, like when he asked me to do an internship, I was shocked. I thought, I'm shocked he thinks I can do this. I was the oldest intern by like 10 years, Yeah. And I think that for us, it didn't change how much we loved the people that did think it was a good idea. It didn't change how much we respected them. Right. Yeah. It didn't change us going back to them and asking them questions later on our walk. Yeah. And now, here we are on this journey and
I do have to say, can I say something about that? I do think if there is something that you feel like you need to do, and 100% of the people say no, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right? Like, maybe then you should listen to it, right?
Yeah, I will say there was lots of confirmation.
Like, it needs to be confirmed and discussed, right? You don't just be like, oh, you were right that time, but not this time. So I do just want to say that in regards to that.
Yeah, and there was it was a unique thing too. Same for moving to California. Like Mandy heard from God. I didn't hear it till we visited. But
Yeah.
when we visited.
Oh, do you want to hear? Can I jump to moving?
Yeah, let's go to California.
'Cause you
so
always
we're
say-
moving from Michigan.
Yeah, because there seems you're right. Not talking about this, you don't ever really look back a lot. There is a pattern because let me tell you what happened.
You total cars
Is-
again?
Come on.
One car in
One car in California, she told him. That's true.
But it was funny because I told Karl we were supposed to move to California, and that was a while ago. And then all of a sudden, Andrew started talking about this California plan. And at this point, I think Karl still thought I was
Wrong.
crazy.
Yeah.
And Andrew had asked Karl to go help look around to pray to see where it could even happen. So Karl's like,
So,
okay.
so at this point, as a church,
Yes,
we know
yes.
we're going to California,
Correct.
Yeah,
right?
we don't know who's going.
We don't know who's going.
We don't know
And then my
who's
dad
going.
asks you, because he's going to go down, figure out what
Where.
area to plant, so you go with him,
Yeah,
right?
so
Okay.
drive around.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So,
Well, Mandy knows you guys are going. No one else knows you guys are going yet.
I honestly even knew the town. I said it wrong, but I knew
She
the
did.
town.
Yeah, she did say it wrong.
So anyways, Karl says to me, because I secretly, in my heart, I'm all excited,
Yeah.
right? And, I'd never been to California. I'm like, we're going to go live in LA. It's going to be so glamorous. And we get to do the Lord's work in my mind, right?
Hang out at the beach every
I
day.
know, right? And Karl says to me before he leaves, listen, Amanda, I just want you to know, don't get your hopes up. I don't think this is of the Lord, right?
Yeah.
I'm just going to help Andrew find the place. And I'm just like, okay. So, fast forward, I don't know however many hours it takes to get to California on a flight.
About 4.
4 hours. Karl calls me and he says, guess what? I just landed. He's still on the plane.
No, I was out of the plane. I was in the airport.
In the airport. He says, pack everything right now. Sell what you can. We are moving now. And I was like, what? He's like, we're moving to California. And I was like, does Andrew know?
And I was like, no, I haven't told him yet. I want to call you first.
Pack it all,
He was just like, we're leaving. I'm supposed to just meet him out in California
Yeah, I
now,
literally in my
right?
head thought I'm not going back to Michigan. I'm just going to stay here.
Mandy will pack the house,
Yeah,
bring
I
the
know.
kids.
I was.
She got it on lockdown.
Yeah, when we landed, I got off the plane and I mentioned this at one point before. There's been a couple big moments in my life, but when I remember the first time I moved out of my parents' home, I was sitting in my living room and I looked at my roommate, and it was the first time I ever felt safe in my life. And it was the first time I ever felt like I was at home. And I was like, holy cow, I'm home. This is crazy. I remember telling my roommate that. I remember landing in California and walking into the airport and that same feeling hit me.
Wow.
I'm home. And I remember distinctively, I quickly, I was like, God, wow, this is crazy, and I'm in the airport, and I remember, and it was probably the only thing I could say for the longest time about California is we weren't leaving the point, we were bringing the point there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that statement just it just resonated in me, and so I thought, Mandy's got to we got to get here now, right?
The people got to know.
Yeah, and so I call her.
I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Yeah, your dad.
Sell it all.
Yeah, your dad comes out. This is so
And by the way,
funny.
Karl at this point too had just had surgery.
Yeah.
He can't even use his
That's
arm.
right.
So I'm gonna
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
pack the house up and move it myself
Yeah, I couldn't use my
because
hand
he's
at
all
all.
one-handed.
Yeah.
Well, he's not even coming back in his head at this
I
point.
know,
I had eyes
I know,
not coming
I know.
back, man.
He'll beat you at the beach.
Right.
And so I did say, I said to Andrew, we need to move here. I know it. And he started laughing, like he always does, like he does with me, just laughs, and he laughed. He's like, all right, well, let's drive around. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, man, I already called Mandy. He's like, you already called Mandy? And I was like, yeah,
She's on her way.
yeah. So we spent the week, and this is the funniest part is, we were there to pray, and kind of find the area. But I was so solidified in the fact I was moving there. That for me the trip was done, and I was just going to chit chat with Andrew about
Just
my
hang out for a couple
kids,
days.
and it was over. I knew we were moving, and it was it. And so he always jokes about that he went out there to pray, and I just talked to him how awesome my kids were for 4 days. And like, it was just so solidified in me, you know? And again, that was another moment where I knew my leaders agreed. My wife was in agreement. My kids were in agreement. When we came home, we all prayed about all the kids heard. We're going to California. But again, it was another moment where some of our church family probably didn't agree with it. I didn't think it was a good idea for us. And they didn't think it was a good idea out of love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was never, we don't believe in you or we don't love you. It was, we genuinely love you and don't want you to go.
Yeah.
Right? And here we were at the church leading youth, leading kids, and youth was going great. You know, we had a great youth group and everything was going awesome. And, you know, we loved those youth kids, still love all those youth kids.
Yeah.
And so it was a big change. And it was one of those moments where I remember telling Mandy, like, you know, I had surgery on my hand, and I was supposed to go back to work at the place I got hurt at.
Yeah.
And my intent was to go back and be there for years, you know.
Yeah.
And now I got to tell them I ain't coming back.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to California, you know, and I tell my family. And I remember telling my family, and it went okay.
Yeah.
Like, it was gonna be hard for them, you know. And Mandy's family was super supportive.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are gonna be amazing. You know, my family was like, "Are you sure it's a good idea?" And it was just one of those moments where, like, your faith has to carry you and make sure that
Our faith had to carry us, let me tell you.
yeah, it carried us, carried us, carried us, carried us. If you're never church planted, you don't understand that completely.
Yeah.
Trust me. But if you're church planted, you know it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's
But
very hard.
But it's
Yes,
the
it is.
most,
So rewarding.
it was one, I do have to say, I honestly loved that with all of my heart.
Yeah.
Church planning.
Oh, it was great.
One of the best experiences of my life.
So let's jump in there.
Yeah.
You guys, you know, it's solidified.
Yeah.
We pulled the trigger.
Yep.
Pack the house up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everyone here's devastated.
Yeah.
Some of us
Right.
on the set were devastated. You guys take off. You head down to California.
Yeah.
You plant a church. Now, no building.
No
Yeah,
building.
no
So-
building. We didn't
Take
even-
take us there. Take us to day one. You
Day
land.
one,
What's
all right.
going on?
Well,
So-
we moved to California with no house,
Yeah.
no job,
Yeah.
3 kids, Chad and Nicole, and a dog.
Yeah.
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 And really, we should have thought it through.
We should-
with
yeah, there-
more
in hindsight.
No, listen. You guys have a great track history of thinking things through and like taking time.
Right.
I think you're allowed this
Right.
one time not to.
Right. So,
Brilliant.
yeah, we literally did
Yeah.
that. But, you know, clearly God had a plan and it all worked out.
yeah.
And we got an apartment.
And that was a crazy
Tell me-
story.
tell us that story. That's such a good story.
So we get to California with no job. And California's different than Michigan, right? Michigan,
Yeah.
you can get a place, you know? So we get there and no one will rent us because we don't have a job. And I'm like, what? Like, my
And
plan was to,
also,
like,
we never looked at how much rent actually
yeah, we didn't actually look at what it was going to cost.
I
And,
mean,
you know, we thought we were going out there with like 5 months worth of resource.
Yeah.
Right.
In California,
that
that's
was
about
like
6 weeks, you know?
one.
And so we're like, whoa, like, well, okay, we'll figure it out. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
We'll California job, no big deal. I've always found jobs really easy. This is not going to be a problem. And man, it was crazy because no one would rent to us. And this
Wow.
place we had gone to, we had actually gone and looked at it, and I was like, this is where we're supposed to live. And it wasn't that it was super glamorous, but
No.
like I just knew there was these kids
Yeah.
playing out in the yard by themselves. And when we were walking through, I felt God say that there was an opportunity for us to show the Father's heart. And I thought, this is our spot. This is where we're supposed to live. So I told Mandy that. She was like, all right. And then so we apply. They say no. We apply again. They say no. And they said no, like, I think it was 3 or 4
Three
times.
times.
3 times. And it costs money every time they say no,
Yeah.
by the way. You, like, pay them to
You gotta
run
pay an
the
application.
Yeah.
I mean, we're down to 4 weeks now.
Yeah. And so this last time I remember we went in there, and the lady's name was Sandy, which I gotta say, like Sandy, she ran the complex.
Yeah.
We loved Sandy. And she
Yeah.
actually ended up living right across from us. Like, we
Yeah.
had windows. And my kids became good friends with her kids. She was a great lady. And I remember going, I was like, can you just run it one more time? And she was like, listen, son, like, you've spent $400 here, you know. How much more you spent? And I was like, listen, I know that God has asked us to live here. I know it's going to go through.
Yeah.
She was like, oh my goodness. And so she quick ran it through, and they accepted us.
Wow. Come
And
on.
she just started laughing. She said, quick, sign everything. So we signed
Quick,
everything.
sign it
She
quickly.
did.
Yeah,
Like,
but
yeah.
it took us like 4 days to find a place.
Wow.
And then we started applying for
So where are you
jobs.
guys living while you're?
Well, so there was a couple we knew there named
Yeah.
Lisa and Larry.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were a couple of peace for us. They
Yeah.
were super supportive. We just loved them and appreciated them so much. And but we didn't move in there, right?
No.
Like, but we knew them while we were there. So we stayed in some hotels, stayed in the U-Haul van, stayed in the car one time, and we were trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then they did open up their homes for like us and the kids, and we were there a couple of nights. But they were such a great couple that even in the midst of us trying to find a place, like we would go over there while we were looking at places, you know, and they were just so kind to us and so gracious. And I'd be calling Andrew like, this is what's happened today, and he'd be like, it'll be all right, it'll be all right. That was always it'll be all right, it'll be all right. And he was in faith, and we were in faith, but it was trying to figure out and navigate like what it was going to look like, how it was going to go.
Yeah.
I think looking back on it now, we were literally walking our faith out in that.
We were,
Like,
yeah.
it was legit.
Every day.
Like, you always talk about walk your faith out, right? And we have this idea of like, okay.
Yeah.
But legitimately, we were walking our faith out.
It's like everything we believe, we actually have to do now.
Right. And it was just like, okay, God,
Yeah.
all of this literally has to
Yeah.
come from you because, like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
And he came through every
Every
single
single
time.
time, man.
Come on.
Every
Every
single
single
time. And to be honest with you, like, if I was told to do anything now, I know God would be faithful because walking through that and just building block upon block of faith, like, nothing could shake
Yeah.
my faith now.
Yeah, it was crazy because we were applying for jobs like crazy.
Yeah,
you know?
and we couldn't
and
get
we
a
couldn't get a
job.
job. And then we had some really good friends of ours had come out to like visit.
Yeah.
This is like one of my favorite stories. And we've been sending out 10, 12 applications a day, right?
Yeah.
They come over to the house. They're like, "Let us help you send out applications. Like we've been doing it wrong." And I was like, "Okay." And so we sat there, and they're looking for a job. What do you want to do, Carl? I'm like, "Man, at this point, I'll take anything," you know. And so they're like helping us. And then this other couple that was going to be moving out.
Yeah.
This is the funniest story.
This is the biggest.
They're going to be moving out there now. There's
And-
4 of us looking for jobs for a
Yes.
month.
Yeah.
They come out to visit for a
visit.
week and get a job.
She gets a job.
No.
Yes.
Like, legit, and she just not gonna even be out there for like a
6
6
months.
months or something, and she gets
Yeah.
a job.
And I'm like,
that's
what?
where that college degree came out.
That worked out well. And so, and it was crazy. Like jobs that I knew I would get, like it just wasn't coming through. And I know it was a God thing. I know
Oh,
it
100.
was. But
Because
I mean,
eventually the job that Carl ended
yeah,
up
there
getting
which
was
is
where Chad and
Nicole,
Janet.
Chad and Janet
Yeah.
came from, and all that. But it was a trying season. We sold our car. I mean, we did everything we could to get established. We did the practicalities, but we were also in faith, and God moved.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes one of the things that we've always talked about a lot is faith doesn't mean sitting still and waiting.
Right.
Yes.
It's active faith. Like we
Yeah.
walk it out with faith that God's making a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But
so
we're
good.
a part of it, and
Yeah.
that was kind of what we did. We just did everything we could to
Yeah.
to keep getting there until everything got to a place of
Yeah.
doing this. So we finally get jobs, right? And we start the prayer meeting in our living room.
Yeah.
And the first prayer meeting, it's like 4 of us, you know?
Yeah.
And we're all from Michigan, you know? I mean, nobody from California there. And within a couple of prayer meetings, like people started to
It
show up.
grew, yeah.
Wow.
You know, and some weeks you'd be halfway through the prayer meeting, and then everybody would actually show up. You know,
Yeah.
in California sometimes people are late. And it got to be a decent sized amount of people in our living room praying. And
Yeah.
that's how it started. And we did that for probably 6 or 7 months.
Yeah. Until we moved to
yeah.
Chad and Janet's building.
And then we moved to Chad and Janet's building, and
Yeah.
that's when the church really kind of got established.
Yeah.
yeah.
And over the next
3.5 years.
3 years, I would say. I
Yeah.
don't really know exactly how long, but over the next
Yeah.
3 years, saw tons of people saved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tons of people come to know God. Tons of people grow in their faith.
Yeah.
And all of that solidified to us that God is faithful.
Yeah.
He's just faithful. Like what we wanted to do is we wanted to restore families. We wanted to bring God into people's lives and let Jesus be the healer of their lives.
Yeah.
And we got to see it firsthand in California.
That's so cool.
And I think we also knew, just from experience, that any situation that might seem hopeless, if you bring God into it, like it can change in an instant,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it can be something completely different. And I think that's what we wanted to bring to California, and even honestly, even here, right?
Yeah.
Like Jesus just can't work in California, right? You can
He
work
works
here.
everywhere.
Yeah.
So
He does
I
work
think-
in a little warmer weather, though.
I mean,
It don't hurt,
Yeah,
right?
that's
It's
right.
helpful sometimes.
But we've seen it here. We've seen it like we.
Yeah.
we're so grateful that we get to serve a God that changes changes lives and restores everything, and gives hope and gives a future and brings peace. And
it's not always perfect.
No.
But there's hope and peace in all of it.
All of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I love it. So, you guys are in California. I know we heard a little bit of like what it was like in California in Chad and Janet's podcast with you guys. So, if you guys want to kind of fill in some blanks, go back. It's one of the first ones released. Go look at that one. It's great. But just for time's sake, I want to jump a little further ahead.
Yeah.
So, you're in California. Things are going really well. And then God speaks again.
Yeah, that one was a little tricky because that was the only time that I heard something first, and so I was in the courtyard of our apartment complex, and I felt like God was calling us back to Michigan.
Yeah,
And I felt pretty certain about it, and I thought, oh man, like that's gonna be a hard one to tell Amanda and the kids.
Yeah.
Because we were living our best life but we loved it.
And how old are your kids at this point? Like roughly?
Freshman,
Yeah.
sophomore, freshman in middle school.
Yeah.
So they're in the thick of like,
Oh,
where
yeah.
some people make lifelong friends, right? Like they're getting
100%.
close
Like,
bonds. It's not just
like-
Jimmy down the road anymore.
No,
it's like
it's
we're
like-
boys, we're
yeah.
tight. Like
You know, they played. Austin played football. And
Chandler
yes.
was modeling in LA.
Yeah,
do
like
you know what I mean?
there was a
Like-
lot going on. They
like-
were
Yeah.
loving.
It
right?
was they were loving it.
It was
Nicole
cool.
was starting her YouTube.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that.
Oh yeah, but they loved their high school,
Yeah.
and they had tons of friends, and everything was going wonderful for them. And I sit here going like, oh wow, like we might have to move back to Michigan. What's that gonna look like? You
Yeah.
know. And I remember talking to your dad, and I didn't tell him. I thought I'm just gonna sit on this for a minute, you know.
Yeah.
Last time Mandy heard from God took 3 years, you know. That's something that
I got some time.
I got some time, you know, and we and your dad would talk every year about the next year, you
Yeah.
know, and he had said, "Have you prayed about next year at all?" And I had, and I wasn't going to say, "Yeah, I feel like God said Michigan." I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I've been praying." And he's like, "All right, well," he's like, "I'm gonna pray about it. We'll talk in a couple of days."
Yeah.
And I'm in the courtyard, mind you, and he calls me back like a half hour later, and I'm like, "Oh man." He's had a couple, and your dad, I mean, Andrew never does that. Like, I'll call you in a few days, and then he calls you back in 30 minutes. Like, that's not usual.
Yeah.
So I answer the phone, I'm like, hey, he's like, all right, listen, I've heard something from God. I need to tell you. And I'm like, here it is, man. And he says it, and he's like, and I also, Dave and Carol, you know, who are like, would be spiritual parents to Andrew and Ange, I've heard the same thing.
Wow.
And I tell you that, listen, I know, it's what I felt.
Yeah.
He's like, okay. And I was like, I guess we'll be back in March. This is January. He's like, okay, well, I said, we'll be back really soon. And he said, okay, well, like we had to talk to the church. We had to talk.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to go talk to Mandy. And so I come in the house. I'm like, listen, guys, I believe God's calling us back to Michigan. And man, there wasn't no one in that house that thought I was right, you know. And they all, I said, I just want to ask you guys to pray about it.
Yeah.
And you know, they did. And it was hard.
Yeah.
And it took them days
Oh, I'm sure.
to get to a place where they were even willing to listen or hear. But slowly, one by one, they would come to me individually and say, Dad, I know we're supposed to go back, but like I just don't want to.
Yeah.
And I think it was the first time that God asked us to do something that maybe we weren't 100% excited to do.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and it was also the first time like I had heard something and was 100% sure, and Mandy wasn't.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask about
Yeah.
that. Like, Mandy, like, tell me about like your perspective from that point. Like, where it's like for the first time, like 'cause up to this, you've always heard first, then you're telling Karl, and it's the first time it hasn't happened for you. So what's going through your mind?
No.
That's it.
Right,
No,
like,
it ain't
no,
happening.
no.
God only speaks to me first.
Right.
Karl's wrong.
Right. And to be honest with you, I think I was a little upset.
Yeah.
Because we went out there to build this thing,
Yeah.
right? And it honestly was going so well. People's lives were getting transformed. And I was like, why? Like, I didn't understand. I was like, I don't want to do this. I felt like a little child, and I was
Yeah.
like, I do not want to do this. And if I'm honest with myself, right, I felt a nudging. I didn't hear like, okay, we're moving, because I remember us talking about the next year, and I felt something, but I was like, nope,
Yeah.
them not even recognizing that. So I was very upset. But then Karl said to me, "Will you please just pray about it?" And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna act like an adult." And I did pray about it, and I didn't, honestly, I don't know if it was because I just didn't want to hear, or I was just kind of sad because,
Yeah.
I have all these things, like my kids, like it's going to change them, I have all that.
Yeah.
That I said, you know what, like I didn't hear a no, but I didn't hear a yes.
Yeah.
But I'm going to trust that you know what God has told us to do.
Yeah.
So, I was not excited to leave, right?
Yeah,
no.
But I did trust that it was God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I think it was interesting because a lot of our friends were in California, right?
Yeah.
Like, there was a few of our very close friends that had moved to California to
Yeah.
be with us out there, and we had made some incredible
Yeah.
relationships in California.
Yeah.
And we said this many times. It was one of the hardest things we ever had to do.
Yeah.
There was two really hard moments. Leaving Caledonia was really hard.
So hard.
Yeah.
And then leaving California was super hard.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think those are moments where, like, I remember sitting there thinking, like, man, I'm either serving God or I'm asking God to serve me.
Yeah.
Like, it's either
Yeah.
I'm going to do what
That's
He's
so
asking me
good.
to do,
Yeah.
or I need Him to line up with what I want. And I don't think any of us wanted to leave
Yeah.
Right.
leave California, like wanted to not lead that church anymore. But I knew it was right, and I remember coming back and we moved within 3 months. Took our time, moved
We did.
I mean, for you guys,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
what would that feel like?
And-
An eternity?
felt like a long time, I'm not
With
gonna lie.
that
Yeah.
pattern that we have, we came back here without a place to live.
Yeah, I came back without a place to live,
Well, I mean-
and we lived with Greg and Sandy.
Greg and Sandy.
Yeah.
Greg
Wow.
and Sandy took us in, and
That's so
we
cool.
stayed with them while we looked for a place. We were only there maybe a month or so, I don't remember, but we were
Yeah.
trying to find a place,
Yeah.
and it felt just like being home. We came back and it felt like home, but our hearts we missed the people in California,
Yeah.
and our hearts ached for them for sure, and it was really hard.
Yeah.
And now we're coming back to lead the campus we got saved in, and that meant a lot to us. And also, like, our entire walk with God, Andrew and Ange had led Caledonia, and now they were going to be leading GR, which was going to be the hub as we were transitioning and things were shifting, and we were going to lead Caledonia. And like I was, it's like, how you always feel really bad for the player that has to come behind LeBron James. Like, you just know it ain't going to be as good. And you just, like, you feel for him. Like the guy who replaced Babe Ruth. Yeah, he's probably not
Cam
gonna
Newton, Tom Brady.
Yeah,
Right.
Cam Newton, Tom Brady, right? And so I'm sitting there going, man, this is gonna be really tough, and it's gonna be hard, and it's gonna be transition for our church family, who we loved deeply, and we wanted them to know that we loved them, but like, we're moving into this new season as a church where, Andrew and Ange are transitioning from what they've always been, the times I've been here, to now another phase of what God's asked them to do and inside the churches. And I think for us that was a different challenge. And it came with some really rewarding moments and some absolutely just awesome things, like being able to reconnect with some of the people that spiritually had shaped us so much in the early days. But it also came with some heartache and some hurts, I mean, it's just it's a time of transition, and that's when you get to choose, like, are we the family of God?
Yeah.
Like, do we choose to, be
Good
the
times and
family,
bad
good
times.
times and bad. And
There's a lot of transition in there because you got just for you guys are coming back from
Tons,
California. Then the Caledonia campus is expanding out into Grand Rapids as well.
Yeah.
So even the church here is going through a transition itself, and not just a transition of like we're expanded. Like the people who've been leading this church are expanding, and then we've got new leaders coming in. Like
it was just a lot.
a lot in that mix,
on.
man.
Yeah.
And I
It's a
think
lot.
I think it was.
Why is everything so easy for you guys?
I
It just seems like everything goes seamless.
Yeah.
Picture perfect.
Yeah, it's super easy, And so I think in that, I think we were like there was things me and Mandy were passionate about.
Yeah.
That we really wanted to do, like this podcast, just different things
Yeah.
that we knew we're just gonna put them on hold for a while as God's taken us through this new season of leading this church, and it was great. We got to lead Rev, and we got to see people saved, people's lives changed, and we've made new amazing relationships. And some of the people from California have moved here to Michigan now, and you know, and I think for us, like coming back and being able to lead the Caledonia campus and be in Michigan, it's so unique.
Yeah.
That we get to do life with Andrew and Ange not 3,000 miles away.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things your dad mentioned is like serving in ministry with your friends is, man, it's really important.
Yeah.
And like that's what we get to do. You know, we get to serve with our friends and with our family. And while we admire Andrew and Ange, we honor them, like we know they're in our corner and that we're friends.
Yeah.
And we know we're family, and we know that it's all gonna work out. You know, I think, you know, our oldest son got married this year.
To a
and
girl he went to youth group with here in
this
Caledonia.
girl
Now
who went
they're-
to youth group with, and we led her in youth.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
so
she was our
crazy.
star football player when I was 15. You know, she was phenomenal, and that was such a big moment for us. You know, and then you know Jay, you know your brother,
Yeah.
Andrew's son, was our son's best man at his wedding.
Yeah.
You know, and I think. Like so much, you know, Austin would have never met his wife if we hadn't. You know, he wouldn't be with Olivia right now if we hadn't moved back to Michigan, and you know the things we came back here, and the needs that we had in the church. You know, like each one of our kids picked up part of that, and they've grown so much being back to the point now where they are so grateful we moved back, and they would never ever even consider moving back to California,
Right.
and that's the goodness of God
Absolutely.
that we can't see what's coming all the time. And especially, you know, I think about even the season that the church and Christians have gone through in this last year. It's been chaos, you know. 2020 was a chaotic year.
Yeah.
But man, there was so much good that came out of it.
Yes.
And there was so much fruit. And now you're seeing people that are coming through even more faith of God, more understanding of the purity of God, more understanding of the holiness of God, more understanding of the righteousness of God, more understanding of God's grace for humanity, God's hand on things. And I think that, man, that's some good stuff, you know, and watching God move, you know, outside of how we expected 2020 to look, God still moved, you know. And I remember when the church was able to, you know, in Michigan, we actually had to shut down the church for a little bit. And when we reopened, like, man, it was like we were baptizing people, seeing people born again, seeing people come alive to the things of God. Like,
it was a revival.
It was like a revival, you know, and it was so exciting to see. And just watching God work in people's lives, and then learning how to in every season, no matter what season you're in, God is good.
Yeah.
And He is faithful, and He pulls people through. And I think that's what we still, to this day, we have just a huge passion for.
Yeah.
Is that, man, the answer is just Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you receive Jesus in your life and you allow Jesus to be the Lord of your life, man, you're going to heaven, and life's going to be better. And then if you make a decision to walk out your salvation with fear and trembling with the people in God's community, man, every aspect of your life is going to get healthier.
Come on.
And that for us is still it's still all these years later.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, that's it. That's all it is for us. Like, we just want people to encounter this God that saved our family, that will save their family. We, you know, our kids' lives forever changed. Our grandkids' lives will be different now. You know, and as we get older, you know, I'm getting older, you're staying young. But as I get older, you know, you look at your kids, and our youngest kid is 17.
Wow.
You know, and we're a couple years probably from none of them living at home. Sorry. But, you know, that's, like, that happens, you know, sorry, but it does. And I think, man, what a great run.
Yeah.
What a great run it's been. But I'm super excited.
We're dying.
I mean,
it has been a great run.
like it was a good run.
It was a good run being the Gibson family, having us all under the same roof.
Yeah.
It was a good run.
Oh.
And then now, oh, sorry. And now we get to watch our son,
Yeah.
you know, create his family
Yeah.
legacy.
Yeah.
And do that with his wife. And do it better.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
And I look at the other ones, I think, okay, you know,
Nicole
at
gets
some
married.
point Chandler will get married. And
Yeah.
30 years from now, Nicole will get married. And they'll do the exact same thing, you
Yeah.
know? And then it's a different season because then we get to help speak into it. We don't really shape it as much,
Yeah.
you know? And I think I look at what we shaped in our family over the last 21 years.
Yeah.
And it was fun. You know, I know, right? It was fun and it was
Yeah.
amazing. But like our most fruitful years are still ahead of us.
Come on.
And that's the part for me. I think
Well,
I don't.
according to you, it's been a good run.
That's true. But I think about that all the time. Is like, man, what a great journey, what a great legacy, what a great time we had with our kids, and going through all the trials and tribulations and coming out to where we came to. It's just phenomenal. And then we're eventually going to be grandparents years and years and years from now.
Okay.
And we get to do all these different things and watch them do their things. And I can't wait for this next season. And you know, and when that season changes, you know, into great grandkids, whatever that looks like, right?
And then when that season
Yeah, but
changes into, right?
I think it's important that you realize, like, in our lives, you run different legs of it.
Yeah.
You know, and it takes different focus. It takes different energy. It takes different commitment.
Right.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's different. And I think this leg of our race, we ran really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to run the next leg even better.
Come on.
And that's a big one for us.
Yeah, I totally agree.